What would you do if a wide-eyed 8-year-old marched down the aisle of your own million-dollar wedding, stared straight into your soul and asked, "Are you my dad?" while 500 guests, your furious fiancé, in a forest of cameras turned to watch you answer? Tonight's story begins exactly there inside Manhattan's glitter-soaked Grand Oak Hotel, where tech mogul Logan Walker is about to crown his empire with the perfect marriage, until Grace Miller, the college love he ghosted 15 years ago, arrives holding the hand of a boy who could be Logan's mirror. In the split second before the chandelier groans, before an avalanche of blue orchids crashes toward that child, Logan must decide whether to die for safety or die for a second chance. His choice detonates a scandal that topples CEOs, rewrites inheritance wars, and proves that even billion-dollar legacies can be redirected by a single stubborn heartbeat. Stay with us as reputations crumble on live television, secret medical battles test the price of love, and a family tries to stitch itself together beneath the same stars that once tore them apart. Ready to feel your pulse race? Let's begin. Logan Walker believed the universe revolved exactly where he pointed it. At 38, he was the wunderkind who turned a dorm room algorithm into the multi-billion-dollar Titan Walker Dynamics. Tonight, inside the chandeliered ballroom of the Grand Oak Hotel, he would crown that empire by marrying Vanessa Blake, Wall Street's golden heiress, the one partner money couldn't simply buy. While florists suspended a river of indigo orchids from the 30-foot ceiling, Logan studied Manhattan's night horizon through the suite window. The city pulsed like circuitry, tidy, obedient, profitable. Exactly how life was meant to be lived. Logan, the designer, needs final approval on the Starlight theme invitations Vanessa breezed in on speakerphone, her voice lacquered with old money confidence. She rattled off figures 500 hand-cut place cards, crystal favors imported from Austria, until Logan interrupted almost gently. "Add one more name to the guest list," he said. "Excuse me," she laughed. "We capped this at 500 for exclusivity. Tack on Grace Miller. She writes for the Times. Free press." Vanessa's silence thrummed. "Grace Miller, your college flame." Logan inviting an ex to our wedding isn't press. It's ammunition. Logan's jaw flexed. 15 years earlier, he'd left Grace at an MIT dormitory staircase with a promise to call, then boarded a red-eye to London and never looked back. What was the harm in one more triumphant glance over his shoulder? "Trust me," he answered. "I just want her to see how far we've come." Vanessa exhaled a sound sharp as broken ice. "Fine, but if this publicity stunt detonates, don't claim you never heard the ticking." 3 nights later, Grace Miller opened a black lacquered box on her modest Maplewood porch. Inside lay an invitation sheath, sparkling with Swarovski dust, and folded beneath a discreet +1. Her heartbeat snagged. 8-year-old Ethan peeked over her elbow, baseball cap askew. "Cool box, Mom. Who's it from?" "Nobody important," she lied, fingers trembling. The father, Ethan, had never met the billionaire who once called love a distraction, wanted her at his fairy tale altar. Why, Grace almost tossed the invitation. Almost. But Ethan had begun asking questions lately about rockets, about stars, about whoever had given him those storm gray eyes. Answers were overdue. Wedding day, press vans ringed the Grand Oak like vultures. Inside, Logan glided through rehearsal photos in an Italian tuxedo that cost more than a teacher's salary. Sophie Lane, his ever-unflappable assistant, brought the final confirmation list on a tablet. "Grace Miller has RSVP'd, yes sir, plus guest. Plus, a child. Ethan Miller Walker. 8 years old." The tablet might as well have been a grenade. Logan dismissed Sophie with a curt nod, then locked himself in the marble bathroom. 8 years. One London business trip returned etched into time, a bar in the Langham Hotel. A single, reckless night with the only woman who'd ever challenged him to be better than brilliant. Had that night really followed him home, Vanessa burst in before he could breathe. "Did you seriously invite a woman who named her kid after you? I didn't know." God, Logan's secrets stain. Even white tuxedos. She slammed the door and left him staring at himself suddenly. Less a titan, more a boy who'd borrowed his father's suit. The ceremony began beneath orchid waterfalls and a $50 million PR budget. Violins swelled, influencers lifted phones. Then the elevator chimed. Grace stepped into the aisle in a simple navy dress that made the couture around her look gauche. Beside her walked Ethan, small hand clutching hers, eyes wide at the ceiling of flowers. Eyes that mirrored the groom's exactly. A gasp rolled through the pews. One camera shutter clicked, then 100. Logan's pulse boomed. Vanessa's bouquet dropped petals scattering like spent applause. Grace's voice carried calm but steady. "Congratulations, Logan." Ethan insisted on meeting the groom himself. The boy released her hand and approached the altar. "Do you really own rockets?" he asked. Logan's world narrowed to the child's hopeful face. Same chin, same stubborn cowlick. A tidal wave of memories skipped Father's Day's boardrooms, replacing ball games, slammed him breathless. Vanessa's whisper sliced the silence. "You knew." "I swear I didn't," he rasped, but her expression had calcified. Grace knelt beside Ethan. "Remember what we practiced. Ask your question." The boy inhaled. "Sir, are you my dad?" The chandeliers seemed to flicker. Logan's reply lodged in his throat. Reporters leaned in. Richard Blake, red-faced, barked at hotel security. Sophie watched finger hovering over the PR doomsday plan. At that moment, a loud creak echoed overhead. The steel rig suspending the central orchid cascade groaned under its own decadence. A blossom-laced beam sagged. Screams erupted as the structure lurched toward Ethan. Logan sprang, shoving the child clear. Orchids exploded around them in a fragrant avalanche. When the dust settled, Ethan stood unharmed beneath Logan's trembling arms. Gasps turned to stunned silence. On the far aisle, Vanessa stared equal parts horror and heartbreak, then fled through double doors, her veil trailing like smoke. Logan gathered the boy close, orchids crushed in his fists. "Yes," he finally whispered, voice hoarse. "I'm your dad." Camera flashes strobed, burning the confession into the public record. Somewhere beyond the arched doorway, a live-streaming freelancer beamed the scandal across the planet. "We're truly sorry to pause the story right here, but the next heartbeat will change everyone's fate, so take a breath with us. And if you were Vanessa, would you cancel the wedding on the spot or demand an explanation first? Do you believe Logan can redeem himself after years of chasing power over people? Which country are you watching from tonight? Drop it below. And if this twist hooked your heart, please tap the like button and share the video so friends can weigh in too." Logan Walker had dodged 1.5 tons of steel and orchids, but the real avalanche roared downstairs. Reporters clogged the Grand Oak lobby, shouting questions that ricocheted off marble like bullets. Vanessa Blake's abandoned veil lay trampled near the revolving doors. Her father Richard barked into 3 phones at once, vowing disclosures that would pulverize Walker Dynamics by sunrise. Sophie Lane hustled Logan, Grace, and Ethan through a service corridor that smelled of detergent and panic. The boy clutched Logan's sleeve, equal parts awe and terror, while Grace pressed a hand to her racing heart. In a linen closet turned command post, Sophie slid her tablet across a folding table. "Sir Donat Wedrek is trending worldwide. The board just called an emergency vote to suspend you for moral misconduct. And," her voice softened, "Vanessa's attorneys filed a 90-page breach of promise suit. Damages start at $100 million. Logan's throat dried. A week ago, he would have hired a phalanx of lawyers and crushed every headline. Tonight, a single question dwarfed the numbers. What would Ethan remember about this moment? He knelt, meeting the boy's eyes. "I'm sorry, your first day with me looks like a war zone," Ethan sniffed. "You saved me, Dad. That's better than rockets." Grace's gaze flickered, equal parts relief and lingering hurt, but she said nothing. Sophie cleared her throat. "The press wants a statement in 15 minutes. If you stay silent, the board will define the narrative for you." Logan rose, tugged loose his ruined bow tie, and inhaled the bleach-tinged air, then set a podium. "Tonight, we tell the truth on every channel." Flash bulbs strobed as Logan strode into the deserted ballroom, Grace and Ethan at his side. Chandeliers still dripped shattered crystal. The river of orchids lay in blue ruins. Cameras feasted on the wreckage, but Logan's voice cut through. "I built Walker Dynamics to reach the stars. Somewhere along the climb, I forgot the people who are the stars of my life." He rested a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "This is my son. His name is Ethan. The only scandal is that I didn't find him sooner." Gasps, murmurs, the frantic scratching of pens. Logan continued. "Effective midnight, I stepped down as CEO. The board will survive. My son only gets one father. A reporter barked, "Is this resignation or a stunt?" Grace spoke up, a cool, steady alto. 2 weeks ago, Ethan asked why every kid in science club had a dad at the telescope but him. Tonight he got an answer. The ballroom fell almost reverent. Then a second voice sliced the hush, Richard Blake, flanked by attorneys. "Walker, resign all you like. You still owe my daughter an apology and my company damages." Papers rustled, cameras pivoted. Logan faced him. "I owe Vanessa far more than money and I'll make it right. But no check replaces honesty." Richard sneered. "Honesty, submit to a DNA test within 48 hours or prepare for a custody injunction. Money buys very good lawyers." Grace paled. Ethan's fingers tightened around her wrist. Logan's pulse hammered, but he forced calm. "I will if your lawyers agree. Tests happen in a child-friendly clinic, not a paparazzi circus." Richard opened his mouth, but Sophie Lane stepped forward. "Mr. Blake, Walker Dynamics' shareholders just triggered a safeguard clause. Any executive found coercing minors' medical data faces federal investigation. Shall I email you the statute?" Richard's jaw clicked shut. The press corps erupted in questions. Logan gathered Ethan, guiding him off stage as a security parted the sea of microphones. 2 days later, fog curled over Maplewood, New Jersey, as a rented U-Haul backed into Grace's driveway. Logan stepped out, no tailored overcoat, just jeans and a Mets cap Ethan loaned him for camo. In the passenger seat, Sophie balanced takeout coffees and a banker's box labeled Penthouse Past. Inside Grace's small clapboard house, boxes of Legos and astronomy posters lined the hallway. Logan inhaled the cinnamon of real life and felt strangely weightless. Over pancakes, he burned 3 times that Ethan quizzed him on Jupiter's moons. Each wrong answer earned a syrup-sticky high five. Grace watched half smiling until a faint tremor rippled across her chest. She tried to hide it, but Logan noticed. "Grace, when did the palpitations start?" "London," she admitted. "Hereditary arrhythmia. I manage with expensive meds." A new terror eclipsed share prices and lawsuits. Logan's empire suddenly looked microscopic beside one failing heartbeat. The doorbell rang. Courier. An envelope embossed with Walker Dynamics' Crest confidential board resolution. Logan ripped it open, a scheduled vote to remove him permanently and sell the company to Horizon Corp, his biggest rival. Vote set for dawn 7 a.m., Dad, Ethan asked. "Is that bad news?" Logan forced a grin. "Only if we let villains win, kiddo." He dialed Sophie. "I need every proof you have that CFO Adler's been leaking patents to Horizon. We go public before sunrise." 1:42 a.m., Walker Dynamics headquarters. A winter wind whipped across the Midtown Sky Bridge as Logan, Sophie, and Grace coat wrapped tight around her face glass doors, now guarded by private security. Adler had already locked Logan's credentials. From inside, board members gathered like carrion crows. Sophie whispered, "Stream is live. 46,000 viewers." Logan raised the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard enough about my moral failure. Let's talk about corporate betrayal." He projected hacked emails on the facade, Adler negotiating secret stock swaps with Horizon. Gasps echoed behind the glass. Phones lit up as directors scanned the evidence. Sophie beamed to their inboxes. Alarms blared inside, security scrambling. Logan turned to Grace, voice low. "When I said I'd fight for our son, I meant every battlefield." Grace reached, squeezing his hand, their first touch of unguarded trust in 15 years. Sirens approached. Either NYPD or Blake-hired muscle, it hardly mattered. Logan kissed Ethan's forehead. "No matter what happens next, remember I'm not running anymore." And then red-blue strobes flooded the sky bridge, freezing the family in blinding color. "We're truly sorry to cut away at this cliff edge, but the next seconds decide whether Logan loses everything or finally earns something priceless. And if you were on the board, would you back Logan's expose or cash out to Horizon Corp? Should Grace risk her health to stand beside Logan in this war, or protect herself for Ethan's sake? Tell us which country you're watching from, and if the suspense has your heart racing, please tap the hearts like button and share, so friends can weigh in too. Blue and red sirens splashed across the glass sky bridge, freezing Logan, Grace, and Ethan in a glare that felt like judgment itself. For one breathless instant, Logan feared the police had come for him. Then officers swept past and cuffed CFO Adler, whose pale face was reflected 10 feet high on Walker Dynamics' facade, still displaying the hacked emails that proved his Horizon Corp collusion. Board directors spilled from the conference room's cell phones, chiming with frantic investors. Chairwoman Ellen Riggs marched straight to Logan. "Mr. Walker," she said, voice tight, "the evidence is conclusive. Adler is finished, but so are you if you think we'll let a public brawl destroy shareholder value." Logan looked down at Ethan, whose hand clutched his coat. "I don't want my company back," he answered. "I want it clean. Vote in a new CEO tonight. Someone who remembers technology is meant to serve people." Riggs searched his eyes for a bluff and found none. "We'll need your shares to block Horizon Corp," she warned. "Transfer every voting share to the Walker Foundation," Logan said. "Its charter mandates STEM education and cardiac research grants." He glanced at Grace, whose heartbeat fluttered beneath her winter coat. "Start with $1 million to New York Presbyterian's Arrhythmia Clinic." Riggs exhaled, half astonishment, half relief. Motion carried. She extended a hand. Cameras blinked. The crowd erupted in applause. It wasn't victory by domination, something far rarer. It was surrender that saved the kingdom. Dawn painted Maplewood in creamsicle orange when Logan guided Grace into the cardiology wing. Tests confirmed her condition was worsening, but new gene editing trials just funded by the Walker Foundation, offered hope. While doctors scheduled her procedure, Logan and Ethan scrawled constellations across the hospital whiteboard, mapping out a future neither was willing to lose. 2 days later, Grace awoke to discover every rose in the recovery ward replaced by kid-drawn rocket ships, and a note in Logan's familiar engineer's block letters. "Stars are only beautiful because someone you love points them out." Spring melted into early summer. The little clapboard house on Maplewood Lane transformed builder crews raised a cedar observatory in the backyard. An ancient apple tree unfurled blossoms above picnic lights. On a warm Friday evening, a handful of neighbors watched as Logan and Ethan strung paper lanterns shaped like planets from branch to branch. Grace emerged onto the deck, color in her cheeks again. Medical bracelets swapped for an amber charm Ethan insisted was luckier. Vanessa Blake's sleek sedan pulled to the curb. She stepped out alone, dressed simple lawsuit quietly withdrawn. "I heard you could use a photographer," she said, lifting a vintage Leica. "Least I can do for nearly blowing up your life." Grace smiled, surprised by the gentleness in Vanessa's eyes. "Thank you for the second chance all around." At sunset, the yard filled with low murmurs, fiddles, and firefly halos. Sophie Lane stood as efficient, tablet in hand, ever the multitasker. Ethan, miniature tuxedo, crisply pressed, carried a velvet box stitched with constellations. Logan took Grace's hands beneath the blooming apple tree. 15 years ago, I measured worth in skyscrapers," he said, voice shaky but sure. "Tonight, I measure it in heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, yours, mine." Ethan's proof the universe is still expanding. Grace's reply quivered through the hush. "When you left, I promised our son his father was aiming for the stars. Turns out the stars aimed him back to us." Lanterns kindled overhead, casting galaxies of light across faces, both tear-streaked and grinning. Sophie pronounced them husband and wife. Ethan whooped, launching a fistful of biodegradable glitter that drifted like comet dust. Near the fence, Richard Blake cleared his throat. He extended a small gift bag toward Logan. "A settlement check won't fix everything," he muttered, "but the Blake Trust will match your foundation's cardiac grant." It was the closest thing to an apology the Titan could voice, and it was enough. Midnight. The new observatory dome slid open with a hush of servo motors, Ethan's latest upgrade. Grace, wrapped in a blanket, leaned against Logan as the telescope focused on Saturn's rings. Behind them, Vanessa snapped one final photo, father, mother, child silhouetted against the cosmos. Their choices had finally aligned. Ethan tapped a keyboard. A laser constellation pointer painted lines across the sky. "See that triangle? It's triangulum," he explained. "Ancient sailors called it the Island of the Blessed. Guess we found ours." Logan pressed a kiss to Grace's temple, heartbeat steady beneath his lips. For the first time in memory, the man who once owned half of Manhattan felt truly wealthy and weightless. We hate to close the curtain when the night sky is just beginning, but every story, like every orbit, must complete its arc. Thank you for traveling all the way to this starlit finish with us. And would you trade power for family the way Logan did, Or try to balance both, and why Grace's surgery was funded? Because Logan redirected his fortune? Should more billionaires tie their legacies to causes that touch their own lives? Tell us your thoughts. How did this story land for you? Comment no in 3 if you loved it, no but 1 if it missed the mark, or no and 2 if it felt just okay. Let us know which country you're watching from, and if this journey moved you, please tap that heart button and share the video so more viewers can gaze at these same stars with us.